Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Fable Stand, and this is Kim. And as part of the Panda rollout and celebration, preparing for the Kickstarter launch, I wanted to talk to you and share with you my insights about concepting the big three, or the three dark AF cards in tarot. They're not dark AF, but the three darker, heavier, more solemn cards in tarot, aka Death, Devil, and Tower. I want to tell you how I concepted these three cards in way of the Panda Tarot, and kind of just how I sort of came up with it, came to define it, and how I ended up with the version that I have. Yeah, so I knew this was like, I think right away, like when I first started concepting the different parts of the deck and everything, I knew these three cards are going to be very interesting because pandas are just so cute. Like, it's really hard to envision them as dead or as carrying the darker aspects of tarot. So I knew it was going to be very interesting because these three cards, Death, Devil, and Tower, are very disruptive energies. Like, they often deal a lot with our shadows. They really push us to confront the things that are holding us back, confronting us to really look at our limiting beliefs and look at the structures that are in place in our lives that are not working for us. So they're very disruptive cards and very chaotic, very heavy, very solemn. They're very powerful archetypes. So, I remember thinking to myself, like, how am I going to portray something that's so dark through the lens of something so adorable, right? Like pandas. Like, how am I gonna how am I gonna do the panda perspective on these three things, or these three cards? So when I first started brainstorming, I wasn't too sure about the Devil and the Tower, but I was just like, they will come to me eventually, and then I don't have to worry about them. But right away, I knew what I wanted to do with the card Death. I knew what it was gonna look like. I knew what it was gonna be about. And it's one of the cards that I had a strong feelings for. Like, I just knew what it was gonna look like. I knew what the vibe was gonna be. I knew what that card was gonna be. Like, it's one of those cards that was like that. So I knew that I knew that it wasn't gonna be grim and solemn like what you usually see on Rider-Waite, or like a lot of the other tarot, and also how they portrayed the Death card. And it's not going to have like a positive spin, like, oh, death is transformation, it's like this new beginning, and it's not gonna be like a fluffier version of death. And I mean, I definitely agree that death is about transformation, but I think I want, like, death, the card Death, I definitely want that more like the gritty aspect of it. Like, I don't just want it to be about transformation, which is what it's about, but I don't know, transformation is painful sometimes, and I kind of feel like I don't want to, skip that part. But, yeah, that's just what I think. So, instead of being dark and grim, instead of being a more positive version of it, I knew I just wanted to portray death as it is. I wanted to portray death as part of life, and life as part of death. I wanted to be very matter of fact. I wanted to be very neutral. And I wanted to portray it as something like death returns you to Earth, returns you to Mother Earth, to where you came from, so that new life may be born. So it's more about this feeling of changeability, and this, not changeability, like this sense of impermanence, but at the same time it's the only thing that's permanent. I know this is sounding very Buddhist, but I just want to portray death like that. Death is just what it is. It's death, and death is part of life. It's I know, like, we have a lot of negative attachments, obviously, to death, but it's just what it is. It happens. It just happens, right? So on the Death card in Panda Tarot, you would see that probably gonna put a picture on the side. On the Death card, you will see that there is a corpse of a bigger panda, and then it's sort of like on the ground, and it's very serene and peaceful looking, and it's very, you can tell that it's dead, but it's not dark, it's not grim, it's just sort of like it became part of Earth, and you can see a younger panda cub sitting on top of the older panda or the dead panda, and there's like flowers and vegetation and fauna just growing from the dead panda, and then the surroundings are very green, very fresh, it's very spring-like, and you know, like it's sort of like saying that the spirit of the panda is gone, but the body returns to Mother Earth to fuel new life, and the cycle of life continues. Life continues. So, you know, like this is symbolized by the flowers and the vegetation that are growing on top of the panda. So, you know, it's just a never-ending cycle. So the picture that I had when I was concepting this card was actually you know, how I sort of translated the vibes and the feelings that I was feeling. What I had in my mind was actually Shishigami from Princess Mononoke, the deer god or the forest guardian. He is the god of life, you know, he also is the god of death. He takes life and he gives life. So it's very almost cold-hearted from a human perspective because it's such power, right? But at the same time, it's just so part of nature, you know. It's just you can't. It's almost like you can't really perceive it as something godly because it's something that's just so part of nature, if you know what I mean. And that was sort of the feeling that I wanted to capture with the death card. It's not positive, it's not negative, it just is. It's just something that happens, and of course we would have a lot of different attachments and emotional involvement with it. You know, obviously we're humans, but it's just I want to capture that transition. But it's not just a transition, it's part of life, it's part of death. It's just something that's very defining, but at the same time it's so small in the grand scheme of things. So I don't know if this is making sense, but this is sort of how I envision death, how I understand death, and also how I want to portray the death card in the way of the panda. So that's death. That's the death card. And next we have the devil panda. So again, you know, when I first thought about it, I didn't really know what it's going to look like specifically, but I knew I wanted the idea like to be of, you know, for the devil card, I wanted it to be you're not honoring your true self. You are not honoring yourself by you're either censoring yourself, you're either obsessing over something, sacrificing the authentic parts of yourself. You're not being authentic, you're not honoring your personal truths and your boundaries, you know. I wanted the idea to be not honoring your inner panda. It's almost like sacrilegious. It's like you're going against your inner panda nature, your inner nature, in order to achieve something. You're giving up parts of yourself to in exchange for something toxic, or because of complacency, or in exchange for something that you think is better for you. So I wanted to capture that idea, but I didn't know what it's gonna look like. Originally, I found a picture of a very angry looking panda. The panda is kind of like buffed up, he's standing up, and he's like, you know, just looking mad. I thought that was gonna be my devil card, but it just doesn't feel right. But you know, like when I actually sat down and just actually worked on the deck and was talking to my artist about the idea of a devil panda, it just didn't feel like the panda is gonna be an angry panda, because that doesn't really make sense. I couldn't explain it, but I think I instinctively kind of knew. Like eventually I just kind of knew that it's not going to be a panda sort of showing dominance, because I think that's against the panda's nature. I think that's why it didn't make sense. I think what I wanted it to be was, instead of an angry panda, I wanted to portray a sad panda, because, you know, when you're not honoring yourself, when you're not honoring your highest good, when you're not acting upon your highest good, when you're not aligned to your highest good, you weep on the inside, even though you're not aware of it. Like the universe weeps. And I want to portray that sense of suffering. You know, I really want to portray that suffering. So I decided that devil card is going to be a panda in chains. And it's very heart-wrenching because panda is just so dear to me, and then seeing a panda in chain is it's a very powerful image, you know. The devil card is about obsessions, right? It's about your ego, and your ego is driven by greed, by fear, by lack, by stupidity, for whatever reason. You know, be it greed, fear, lack, or complacency, or whatever it is. For you to betray your inner self, for you to put chains and a collar around your inner panda, your inner self, for you to dishonor that part of yourself, for you to betray. This is an act of betrayal, right? You're betraying yourself, right? You're betraying yourself to betray that something so innocent and so pure, that panda inside of you, to betray, to cause it to suffer. Who's the devil? Who's the devil here? That's kind of the vibe that I want to go for. It's to bring this awareness to the self, to show that, why are you doing this to yourself? If you ever get that card in a reading, why are you doing this? Why do you cause suffering to others, and why do you cause your own suffering? Like, who are you? Like, why are you doing this? Why do you betray yourself? And you know, I think this is like, it's almost like doing like, it's like a little bit meta. This is kind of like what our innermost self, or what our higher self is feeling whenever we make decisions that are aligned with our ego and not aligned with our higher self. So it's that sense of sadness and suffering. So I think that was a powerful idea and a powerful image for the panda. And I'm getting like a little bit teary-eyed just talking about it, but you know, like, I think that's what I wanted to capture with the devil card. Not like obsessions, not the confinement part, not the dark temptation part of it, but the suffering, you know, because really when we engage in devilish activities, like, we are the ones that suffer at the end, because we are betraying ourselves in the process. So that's the devil card. Okay, so the Tower Panda, the Tower card. So my best friend, Prem Yote, actually suggested this card to me, because I was like, you know, I wanted to capture the crumbling of some kind of structure, but I just don't know what that structure is going to be, because pandas are not going to be in buildings in this deck. So she's just like, she's an artist, so she's very visually equipped, or she has a sense for how things can be expressed through visual narrative. So she's like, why don't you have a panda, and then the panda is like on a branch, and then the lightning strikes the branch, and the branch is just snaps and breaks. I was like, I really like that idea. So I kind of just throw that in the back of my head, because when we were talking about this, it was like a long time ago. It was way before I actually sat down to concept the card. So I just kind of stored it, and when I actually needed the idea, I took the idea. So thanks for the idea, Prem. And I decided to build on that idea. And what I wanted to capture with the tower isn't the point of impact. I think a lot of tower cards out there, it's I guess there's different layers to it, but usually it's a very dark card. The background is completely black, it's very grim looking. It really highlights that sense of impact and that sense of trauma, and also just the destruction, right? Like, it's a card about destruction. You know, the tower energy is something very dramatic, very powerful, very destructive, and really shakes up your life, like really shake you up. It cannot be stopped. And I wanted to portray the impact, but I also wanted to convey that, hey, it's going to be okay, because it is a panda deck. It is through the adorable sort of pictures of pandas, and then I do want to convey that sense of, like, whatever it is that you're going through, whatever drama, trauma, destruction that is sort of forced upon you, or that is kind of done to you by yourself, whatever it is that is happening, you still got this, you know, like, there's this sense of hope, and there's this sense of nurturing. I want that to be in there alongside with the darkness, or the darker aspect of the card. And I think what ended up happening with the tower card is, like, it's not like strong in your face. I think that's not what I wanted to portray. Like, on the contrary, because the panda archetype is a very gentle archetype. So what would constitute a tower card in the sense of a panda is very turned out to be pretty interesting. Like, it's not strong, dramatic in your face, but on the contrary, it's very soft. It's almost distant, and there's a sense of numbness, because you know, for me, I feel like when we're in the throes of it, when we are sort of trying to process the trauma, whatever destruction that is happening, whatever, you know, these really things that really shake up our lives and that really shake the structures and our sense of safety, security, etc. I feel like when we're going through it, it's almost like it isn't really about the moment of impact. It's more about the aftermath. It's more about like after the initial shock, what do you do now? Who are you now? What are you gonna, what is your future? You know, it's really the fall, it's the coping, it's the trauma that's left by it's the standing up that's the hardest part. So I want to highlight that. Like, I wanted to highlight not the point of impact, but right after the impact. It's sort of like, how are you going to cope with this, right? Which is good, I guess, because when you're addressing that, you're not dwelling on the you're not really dwelling on what happened, but I think you're trying to move on from it. You're trying to decide what you're gonna do from now. So it's more like a place. It's like in a sense coming from a place of empowerment. It's kind of bringing attention to your own agency, etc. So it's almost like a more distant, more sort of like your body leaving, you know, because I totally believe that when something traumatic happens, your soul leaves your body. So it's almost like that distant feeling. You're looking at yourself, you're like, okay, this happened. You're observing the drama, the destruction is happening, and you're wondering what's going to happen next, and you're trying to figure out where you're going to go next. So I think I'm trying to capture that sense of numbness, that distance, that I don't know what to do, this just happened, and there's that sense of like, I don't know why this happened, or I don't know how this happened, I don't know what I'm going to do after. So I think there's all that sort of encapsulated in that tarot card, and that's what I wanted to be in the tarot card. And I kind of feel like the tarot card sort of just communicated itself like that. I think a lot of these insights, when I first made the card, it wasn't really in my conscious mind. I think it was in my subconscious, and when my artist gave back, sent me the complete image, and then everything just kind of fell into place, and a lot of the insights that I didn't know that I had about the tarot card actually was let out by the creation of that card. So that was really, really cool. That's something that could happen if you make your own deck and when you try to create a deck. So yeah, you know, that's why like the panda on the card is holding an umbrella. You know, I really wanted to inject a sense of, you know, he might not have been prepared for the lightning to strike, or, you know, he wasn't prepared and he wasn't ready for the tree branch to break. But he has something for the storm that's coming, because I feel like that's the true tower moment. Like it's the post tower that's the most challenging part, because oftentimes when it happens, you can't help it, but it's like the aftermath, what are you gonna do, you know? So that's why he has the umbrella. He just needs to remember to use it, and that umbrella represents something that's always available for him to give him comfort and power, because you can't change the fact that the tree branch is broken. That could be his home, that could be his chilling place, or that could just be representative of the moment of impact. He can't help that it happened, but he does have a choice post-incident to decide what he wants to do, and he always, whatever that umbrella means to him or to you or to whoever is drawing that card in a reading, it just means that there's something there for you to hang on to, whether it is your own sense of safety, your faith, the support system that you have. There's something there. Something is always guiding you and helping you to overcome the challenges in your life. So, you know, however meager, there is softness in life, and everything's going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. Whew. So that's the tarot card, and anyway, and that's how I concepted the 3 darker archetypes of tarot. It's been a journey for sure. Yeah, it's very interesting to be concepting the darker aspects of tarot and then infusing it with panda energy. So yeah, so if you're watching this after my Kickstarter campaign or before, and you're sort of wondering like what's the backstory for these 3 cards, and you want to know more about these 3 cards, well, there you go. Yeah, so what do you think of the panda take of these 3 cards? Is it different from what you usually think of these 3 cards? Is it different from what you expected, or what you perceived? You know, and also how do you personally define death, devil, and the tower card? Let me know in the comment section. below, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, keep calm and Panda on.